Welcome to another edition of the Buddicom Telecom Files. This time I would like to talk to you about the use of utilities infrastructure in the rollout of national broadband. Interestingly, we see that both in the United States and in Australia that there are very clear policies now in place that are aiming at utilizing the electricity infrastructure to roll out fiber to the home broadband. Obviously that infrastructure is in place, obviously that makes sense, but in the past it has been very difficult to utilize that network, particularly because it then becomes a negotiation between commercial companies like telcos on one side and utilities on the other side. Now for the last 20-30 years very little has happened in that particular area. There are some good exceptions, but it's very difficult to negotiate that sort of arrangements. So now if you actually start looking at a national broadband initiative and you really start seeing that it's no longer just simply a commercial sort of situation, but you really start seeing it's something that the government wants to implement, then there are some regulations, there are some legislations, there are possibilities that the government can utilize to actually make that happen. It makes of course a lot of sense. If all the ducts are already there, if the poles are already there, then why on earth would we start overbuilding that? Why would we create new ducts? Why would we put up new poles simply for a fiber to the home network? It doesn't make sense at all. Now on one side you need to get the utilities to utilize, to make that infrastructure available at affordable prices. And there is now some negotiations possible. Interestingly, of course, at the same time that we're talking about national broadband, we also start talking about smart grids. So there is an incentive for the utilities to actually start looking if there is further cooperation, just simply than utilizing the ducts and the poles. If you actually can start utilizing the telecommunications infrastructure that the national broadband is going to provide, then obviously you can start looking at synergies and you can start looking at other opportunities. For example, in the telecommunications industry you need an optical terminator. And that means that you have a point in the house where you bring the broadband network, the fiber to the home, and then of course at the same time the utility companies need to have a gateway that actually allow them for smart meters and perhaps for home energy networks to link other devices into the network. So there is a possibility to start looking, hey, is there something we can work together? Are there things that we can combine and things like that? Now I'm not saying that we should limit competition, to the contrary. I think that it would be fantastic to have broadband services and electricity services, both for example offering on one side home automation networks and on the other side home energy networks. Let there be competition, fantastic. But obviously there are things that you can do together, where you can plan things together, where you can make sure that the power is that is needed for the broadband connection, for the optical terminal facility in the house. All of that of course is possible if you start working together. In Australia we've seen that there is now a work group between the utilities and the national broadband company that's looking at that. In the United States it's a little bit more complex because basically the FCC is saying this needs to be based on the commercial networks that will be rolled out by commercial organizations. For example, they are looking for the public safety network to utilize the mobile network from the commercial operators. And there is not a lot of trust between the operators of the public safety services and in relation to commercial networks. They want to be far more in control, and obviously it makes sense that if you have a structurally separated infrastructure, then you could actually have a much better negotiation who is going to use that, because you simply share the very basic infrastructure, let's say a layer 2 or layer 1 or a layer 2, and then on top of that each of the organizations is still very much in charge of their own services. And there's no doubt that the public safety authorities do need different sort of requirements than the commercial operators. Now absolutely it can be facilitated through a commercial organization, but so far nowhere around the world is there enough trust between the public safety and other sectors and the commercial telecommunications, the incumbent commercial telecommunications operators to do so. So it will be interesting. In Australia we start utilizing this structural separated facility. In America they try to negotiate commercial deals. Very interesting times. Over the next 6-12 months we will start seeing how this is going to eventuate. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. At the end of this clip there will be some more information around this topic and other topics. Thank you.